Good morning, everyone. Welcome to our value selling workshop, part one. So we have Mr. Arijit Ganguly with us from the business Bizwin Consulting. He has been a part of NASCOM and many of its webinars that we have conducted early in the times when we had hit with the pandemic. So today we have come up with a value selling workshop with him. I'll just give a little introduction about him to everybody who are not familiar with who he is. So basically, Arijit is a senior business leader with around 30 years of experience in multinational and cross-cultural business environments. For 2 decades, he has held leadership roles in sales and marketing functions with small, mid-size, and Fortune 500 companies in the IT industry. He has also has hands-on experience in driving demand generation and revenue growth in North America, Europe, and India. His last major corporate assignment was with Oracle Corporation, and with few other business leaders, Arijit has started Bizwin Consulting in 2014. Basically, this consulting firm provides end-to-end sales and sales management consulting and training to the B2B technology companies in India and abroad. Very welcome and warm welcome, Arijit. I'll just request you to take over the webinar and continue, and we can start with it now.
Thank you, Jagriti, and good morning and a very, very warm welcome to all the participants. So we are going to have a great session today, and let's see what we have in our agenda. So the topic of today's discussion is value selling part one. What that indicates, there is a part two. So the part two of this will be done same time next Friday. So we are going to cover part one today. And this is what we have on the agenda for today. Number one, understanding value and value selling. What is value and value selling? Next is step-by-step approach of building value. Third is 7 value selling fundamentals. And fourth is a quick quiz. Now, how this session is structured. So we will have content being shared by me. I will be interacting with you. I will be discussing certain points and all. In between, we will have 2 10-minute quick exercises. So keep your spreadsheets ready. So I'll tell you when to do and what to do. And point 2 and 3, what we have mentioned on the agenda, will happen simultaneously. What I mean by that is, as we discussed the 8 steps of building value into your offering, at the same time, I will be sharing with you certain value selling fundamentals, which you must note down. Now, at the end of the session, you will get a recording of the session from NASCOM, but I would still urge everyone to note down some of the important points of these discussions, because some of the points may or may not be familiar with you. It's good to kind of have these points noted down. And also you can share your questions at the end of the sessions, and I will take questions. So we have kept a bit of a time aside at the end of the session for doing the quick Q&A. Totally, there are 12 value selling fundamentals. We will be discussing 7 of them in part 1 and 5 of them in part 2. So I would again remind everyone that people who are attending today, please make sure that you attend this value selling part 2 session in 10:30 a.m. on next Friday. Then only you will get the holistic picture and a very comprehensive understanding of value selling concept. What we are going to discuss today is primarily applicable for B2B selling. Some of the concepts may be applicable for B2C as well, but it's predominantly designed for B2B selling, for companies who are in B2B business. So let's understand what we have. So let's start with a quick quotation from Brian Tracy. I believe you may be familiar with Brian Tracy. He's one of the leading thought leaders he's of Canadian American origin, and he has written over 80 books, especially on sales, development, and so on and so forth. I found this quotation very apt for value selling. Approach each customer with the idea of helping him or her solve a problem or achieve a goal, not of selling a product or service. Now, we all know this, isn't it? Now, you guys have been in business for a while. There's nothing new in what Brian Tracy is saying, but the problem happens in the application. We all know many things in theory, but when it comes to application, we find a challenge. So how to apply some of these things? What are the techniques? How to do? So we are going to discuss it in these 2-part sessions. So understanding value and value selling, this first section. Before we go into discuss what is value, let's understand what is value selling. What is value selling? We all know this, but I would still kind of do a quick recapitulation of what is value selling. Value selling is the art and science of selling on value rather than on price, promotion, or customers' prejudice. Let's understand these things for a minute. So typically when we are pushed to a situation, we generally tend to anchor our pitch to sell more on price, promotion, or customers' prejudice rather than on value. So value selling is the art and science of selling value and decoupling from the inclination to sell on price, promotion, or prejudice. Price, you guys know how to, when what we are talking about selling on price, when you say, I'll give you $10 less or 5 rupees less, that's all. Promotion. In B2B sales, there are 4 types of promotions that generally are familiar with. Number 1 is coupon promotion. You say, hey customer, I'll give you 5% discount today and I'll hold this discount for you for the next 2 years. That's what we call the coupon promotion. Number 2, we have returns promotion. Hey customer, take this product or take this service. If it doesn't work, I'll give you 20% of the money back. That's what we call the returns promotion. Third thing is a premium promotion. What is that? Hey, you buy the burger, you get the Pepsi free. So, you buy today this product, I will give you the first 2 years AMC free. So that's a premium promotion. And then we finally have the free trial or proof of concept. That is also a promotion. When we say, hey, why don't you use our product or use our services for the next 2 weeks or 2 months and see for yourself. If it is good, then you go for it. So these are the promotions which we also use. There can be a few other types of promotions, but these are the 4 primary promotions which are used in general. But value selling, what we are saying is, please, this is not a good practice to sell on promotion. You should sell on value rather than on price, promotion, or customers' prejudice. Prejudice is a favor, a bias from the customer, which is enabling you to close the deal. So we would rather sell on value rather than taking the help of a crutch like price, promotion, or prejudice. What is the objective of value selling and why is value selling necessary? Broadly, we all know this, why value selling is necessary. If I ask you the question, all of you would have an answer, yeah, it's good because we have to differentiate with our competitors. We have to kind of, make sure that the customer understands the benefits that we are going to give to them. All of you know these answers. Now, the single most important reason for value selling today is to ensure sustainable customer lifetime value and expand customer equity. People who have attended my sessions before, they are familiar with these concepts. People who are not, I'll just give you a quick definition of what is customer lifetime value. If I ask you, you will have some kind of a broad understanding. Some people will say this is a total business that we get from the customer. Someone would say total revenue we get from the customer. Well, the customer lifetime value is essentially the net present value of the margin, not the revenue, the margin that you will earn from that customer throughout the life of the engagement with that customer. That's the customer lifetime value. And value selling is very crucial to ensure a sustainable customer lifetime value. That means the total margin that you will earn from him or the margin that will drive from him. What is the customer equity? The customer equity is the total of all the customer lifetime values of all the customers that you have. So if you have, say, 5 customers, customer A's lifetime value may be $1 million. Customer B is also $1 million. Customer C is $2 million. Customer D is $2 million. And customer E is also $2 million. So the customer equity for your organization is 2 plus 2 plus 2 plus 1 plus 1, which is about $8 million.
Jagriti this side, sorry to interrupt. Can you please adjust your camera? Only your head part is visible to
I'm sorry.
The participants. Yeah.
Maybe I can stop the video. Maybe it may not be required, right?
No, it's perfectly fine. The network bandwidth is also there. It's just that you just adjust the camera. Okay,
just
no
one
worries.
moment. Let me just see what is the channel. Is it fine now?
Yeah, a little better.
Okay. Let me share the screen where we were.
Yes.
So this is where we are. Where.
Now we can see the full face.
Okay, good, good,
Yeah.
good.
Continue.
Oh, okay. So what is the objective? And we were discussing that to ensure sustainable customer lifetime value and expand customer equity. So please make a note of these points because these are all important concepts for your organization. And these are fundamental concepts which you should be familiar with and you should be mindful of evaluating and appreciating it. Customer lifetime value enables you to assess the worth of a customer. A customer is an asset, and CLV is the technique to assess the net worth of the asset. Next, we come to the point number 3. Sorry. In which stage of customer life cycle is value selling important? It's value selling is important throughout the customer life cycle. Throughout prospecting, acquisition, account management, throughout the life cycle, value selling is important. Now we understand what is value selling. Broadly, we knew it, but we got a little more specifics around value selling in the last couple of minutes. But before value selling, let's understand what is value. First, let's understand what is value. Let us all be on the same page in understanding what is value, and then we'll talk more about the value selling fundamentals and how to build value. Let's move to the next slide. So what is value? Broadly, we all know what is value. I have put value as an acronym here. This is not something which I created. I got this from one of my customers. Actually, I was flying with this gentleman from Toronto to Halifax about 15 years back. And we jumped into a conversation. He was sitting next to me. And this is a gentleman. He was not my customer then. I acquired him as a customer later. And when we had this conversation, he gave this beautiful acronym. And since then, I have used it. So I found it very interesting, and I thought I thought you guys might find it interesting too. What is value? Value is valuable. Anything what is valuable, attractive, legal, useful, and economic for the customer. For your customer, whatever is valuable, attractive, legal, useful, and economic. Now let's come to a more formal definition of value, which you may be already familiar with, but we'll still kind of go through it. This is the formal definition of value. Value is equal to the ratio of benefits to cost and adverse effects. In some of the books, you will only find benefits and cost. The element or the factor of adverse effects is generally not mentioned. So if we have to expand or if we have to increase value of our offering for our customers, it's very simplistically, it can be derived from this equation that we have to either expand the benefits or we have to reduce the cost and adverse effects, or do both. Now, one thing which we have to be mindful here when we are understanding the concept of value, benefits, cost, adverse effects needs to be considered in totality. What I mean by this is any benefits through your offering, which you are offering to your customer. Look at the functional benefit, technical benefit, commercial benefits, emotional benefits, societal benefits. Any kind of benefits which you can maximize for the customer enhances the value of your offering towards the customer. Similarly, you must take the total cost. Don't think only about the price. It's your responsibility to educate your customer that cost is not just price. The cost is the total cost of ownership for the customer while they are dealing with you. It includes monetary cost, it includes energy cost, time cost, psychic cost, every cost. It includes the cost of evaluating your offering, cost of buying your offering, cost of using your offering, maybe at times cost of disposing your offering. The total cost is very important, not just the price. And then adverse effect. What do we mean by this adverse effect in the definition of value? So let me give you an example. When you go to say buy a mobile phone, you pick it up, you say, oh, this is great. The features are great. It functions greatly. And suddenly someone says, hey, you know what? This has a bad radiation effect. So this is an adverse effect. So immediately to you, the value of that mobile comes down. Although the benefits, features, they were great. The cost was also kind of fine. But the moment you see there an adverse effect, it comes down. Same thing for your offering for your customer. You say, hey, customer, I've built a great app. Okay, and this can do this. It has a high performance, works on both Apple platform and Android platforms and does these things fine. But when the customer uses, he sees the performance or goes down, or then that's an adverse effect. So when we are considering value in totality and trying to increase it or maximize it, we need to be mindful of these concepts. So the same concepts of benefits, cost, and adverse effect has been represented in this XYZ diagram and the cube. And the art is how to balance it. It's a very difficult to balance it. And typically how we do it is what is known as a Kano method, if you are familiar with it. Now, throughout this discussion or throughout the value selling understanding, you must understand one thing. When we are talking about a product or a service, we are actually discussing the entire offering. So when we are building value into our product or service, we must consider holistically the entire offering. What do we mean by the entire offering? The entire offering includes your product, your service, the way you are making your product or service available, the delivery, the way you do your delivery, if you have a special delivery framework, after sales support, your engagement, flexibility, pricing, creativity, everything goes into making of an offering. Now, all these offering elements, when we are building, designing, or trying to optimize it to enhance the value for a customer, we can actually categorize all these elements of an offering broadly into 3 categories. Must have, B, linear satisfier, and C is delighter. What is must have? Must have are those elements of your offering which the customer anyway takes for granted, that you cannot go to a customer without providing those into your offering. Say, for example, if you are building an app today, to be successful, if you are taking to the market, it's understood that it will work on both Apple and Android platform. If you say, no, it will work only on this platform, that platform, then you are perhaps failing the must-have criteria of a customer's consideration. Okay. The next element comes, the next category of elements are the linear satisfier, meaning the more you put those elements, it increases the satisfaction level of the customer. Okay, and this is plotted against X and Y axis. X axis we have the fulfillment of need, and Y axis we have the customer satisfaction. As you can see, the must-have elements, even if you put more and more, it's not going to increase the customer satisfaction. Linear satisfier, if you put more, it's going to increase the customer satisfaction. And finally, we have the delighters, which the customer is not expecting. Please understand, delighters are those elements in your offering which the customer is not expecting, but still you may add them. It increases customer satisfaction. Now the question is, how do you balance it? Because everything has a cost. So you need to be very mindful when you are incorporating the delighters, the linear satisfiers, and the must-haves in designing or maximizing your offering. Because it has for example, delighter, it's not contracted, the customer is not expecting it, and you will not get paid for it, right? So it's only at your own cost. And the negative side of delighter is it sometimes sets wrong precedent with the customer. So you'd have to be mindful when you are designing your offering or when you are trying to optimize or maximize your offering, which category of elements, how much to put. With this, we move to the next slide. As we were discussing, to maximize value, we need to maximize benefit and minimize the cost. In this slide, we are talking about some examples of benefits and costs. Benefits, it can be revenue growth for the customer, benefits for the customer, savings and profit. If your offering is bringing certain savings or profits for the customer, that's a benefit for them. If you are giving certain delivery predictability, that's a benefit. Delivery predictability of customer's business. If you are improving the productivity of your customer business, these are all benefits. Okay. If you are improving his time to market, that's a benefit to him. If you are reducing his risk, mitigating his risk, it's a benefit to the customer. See, there can be so many other benefits. This is not an exhaustive list. This is just a representative list. Similarly, a representative list of costs. There can be so many costs. Again, price is just one aspect. There can be, maintenance cost, people cost, sampling cost, time to market cost. Everything is a cost for your customer. So, if you are through your offering, you are able to minimize this cost and maximize the benefit. As you can see, it will expand the value for your customer. Now, look at the note which has come on your screen at the bottom. Now we are, now we are getting into the value selling concepts gradually. things will get a little heavier. Please put your pen and paper ready. So you may have to take certain notes. So the value we have broadly all understand so far. You may be thinking, hey, Arijit has been talking about certain things we already know. Yes, you may already know, but certain elements may be good to refresh. Now things are getting a little more serious. Let us read the note which has come at the bottom of your screen. The degree of value assumes significance mostly when it is compared with or against a known reference. What do we mean by this? Hey, when we go to buy, let us take the mobile example. We say, hey, this mobile is good. Or if you go to buy a shirt, hey, this shirt is good. Now, in our mind, we have a reference point with which we are comparing at the moment of purchase. Now, this is very important fundamental understanding for all of you, that the value to a customer, whether we are, for any customer, assume significance mostly when it is compared with or against a known reference. I will say it is good, it's okay, it's bad, comparing in my mind with a certain reference frame. I have already got a benchmark anchored in my mind with whom or against whom I'm going to compare it and assess the value of this offering which is being pitched to me. This brings to the value selling fundamental number 1. Please make a note of it. Value selling fundamental number 1. To influence customers' value perception, you must know their point of reference. This is value selling fundamental 1. What do we mean by this? You have often gone to meet customers where the customer says, hey, you know what? You should deliver it in 2 months. Why you are saying you will deliver it in 3 months? Sometimes customers say, hey, your price is high. So these kind of comments when the customer passes, or this kind of judgment when the customer passes, in most cases, please be assured, he or she is comparing it with certain point of reference in his mind or in her mind. Now, what are those points of reference? The possible points of reference are A, it can be any offer from your competitors. So the customer is comparing with your competitors' offering. B, maybe the customer has read about something in an article, in a journal. That can be a reference. That is why he thinks that this kind of technology should not take more than 2 months to kind of build. Or maybe the customer has attended a webinar or a seminar where he has heard this being discussed and it has anchored in his mind and he's comparing it with it now. Or it may be that in his previous role or capacity, he did similar work, and now that past experience is kind of influencing his judgment, or he's using it as a point of reference. So the value selling fundamental 1 says, through interaction with your prospects or customer, you must understand the point of reference so that you can actually shape the customer's value perception. This is value selling fundamental number 1. Now let's go into the next slide. So here we are discussing is value selling is important to establish a connection. What do we mean by this? For our offerings, we have to make a clear connection between the offering capabilities and the customer's business issues or aspirations. So some of you have attended my earlier sessions, we discussed this, that we connect with a customer at the point of his aspiration or at the point of his affliction. That is where you have the maximum potential of selling on value. So we must understand the point of issues, which is affliction, or the point of aspiration for the customer, and then go ahead on that. Now, generally when we go out and discuss or do the prospecting or interact with a prospect or an existing customer, we have seen that whether you are a salesperson or whether you are the owner or the business person, generally you guys have very good offering knowledge. You know what you are selling. You know about your product, you know about your service. But the thing is that when you are discussing with the senior level executives, They value business expertise or industry knowledge more than just the product and service knowledge. Your product and service knowledge or your offering knowledge is important, but it's very important if you need to be successful as a value seller to have a very clear business acumen, and this you need to inculcate, you need to cultivate. This is very important because remember, this creates a credibility gap when you are selling to a senior person. It's not just about the value of your solution. Please remember this. We get so engrossed in the great value that we are, the greatness about our own product or service. Remember, we all tend to forget one thing. It's the value of your solution is important. Also, it's equally or more important is the value of solving their problem or fulfilling their aspiration. So if until and unless your product or service is fitting into that scheme of things, the customer will always treat you as something non-essential or something commodity. So this is a very, very important thing. That brings us to value selling fundamental number 2. What is value selling fundamental number 2? That you need to think like a business owner. Don't think like a technical person or a salesperson. If you want to succeed in value selling, getting larger orders with sustainable customer lifetime value, you want to expand the customer equity of your organization, you have to start thinking like a business owner and communicate with the senior level executives in the customer's organization like a business owner. And one of the essential parameter of thinking like a business owner is you have to think about your offering as a whole, not just about your product or service. Again, what is the offering constitutes? We have discussed this in our previous slide. The offering includes everything that you are bringing to the table. Your product, your service, the way you are making them available, your delivery mechanism, your engagement frameworks, your pricing creativity, everything, your after sales support, that everything constitutes your offering. So it's very important to succeed as a value seller. You have to think like a business owner and think offering, not just the product or the service. And this will only enable you to connect with the customer to solve their problem or enable them to fulfill their aspirations. And this is only possible when you are spending time, when you are investing time in building the knowledge and cultivating your own business acumen. Value selling is not for all, and value selling is not for every situation. If you are selling a commodity, value selling may not be that much relevant to you. But if you know you are selling something which is differentiated and which can fetch us a real value from the customer because it solves the problem of the customer better or superior than anything else, or it can enable the customer to fulfill certain aspirations in his business, you have to adopt this value selling to ensure maximization of your customer lifetime value and customer equity. Let's move on. Now that we are talking about the step-by-step approach of building value, right? We need to build value, then only we'll be able to do the value selling. So we will be discussing 8 steps, and as I have mentioned earlier, parallelly we will be sharing with you the value selling fundamental concepts. We have discussed 2 value selling fundamentals so far. Number 1, what was the number 1? We said, let's go back to number 1. That to influence customers' value perception, you must know their point of reference. So we must know against whom we are getting benchmarked. Without knowing this, we will not be influence the customer's value perception. And what was the value selling fundamental number 2? That you must think like a business owner, you must cultivate your business acumen and think offering. This is a very important fundamental for succeeding in value selling. There are 5 more value selling fundamentals which we are going to discuss today. Brace for them. So step-by-step approach of building value. Before I go to the 8 steps, I will introduce you to an important concept of thinking in a new or different way. You may already be familiar with this. This is nothing new. This has been around for a time, and some of you may be familiar. But this is also what we call value selling fundamental number 3. But this way of thinking, how to think new or different way to solve a problem or fulfill a need. So this is what we call, Scamper thinking. What is Scamper? It's an acronym for substitute, combine, adapt, modify, put to another use, eliminate, reverse, or reduce. So when you are designing your offering, whether it's your delivery mechanism, whether it's your after sales support, whether it's your general maintenance services, think what is the factors or what are the things you can substitute to get more or to kind of ensure more value for the customer. Value is again the ratio of benefits to cost and adverse effect. So benefits needs to be maximized, cost and adverse effects needs to be minimized. Is there something which you can combine to create that kind of a value? Is it something you can adapt? Is it something you can modify in your current offering to ensure greater value for the customer? Can you put the same offering into put to another use? If you are saying, okay, this particular application or this particular product is suitable for this particular usage, can we make it usable by doing a little bit of tweaking for some other circumstances? What is it that we can eliminate and still create value? And is it possible to do something reverse? Can we reduce certain things? Can we rearrange certain elements in our offering and create a new or different way of solving problem or fulfilling the need for the customer? So this is, if you subject your thinking to this mechanism, which is called Scamper mechanism, it's a pretty popular mechanism. And this is the value selling fundamental 3. You may come up with new ideas in designing or maximizing your offering to generate more value for the customer. Remember these 4 points when you are using Scamper at the bottom. Avoid these 4 things. What is it? Number 1, narrow framing. When you are thinking of redesigning your offering is not just a product. It can be service, it can be after sales support, it can be your delivery, anything. Avoid narrow framing, meaning you don't keep your horizon very narrow. Keep your horizon very wide. There is no harm in thinking whether it will be possible, feasible, that you can always consider later. But when you are in the moment of thinking, applying Scamper, don't limit yourself with a narrow horizon. So framing should not be narrow. Number 2, do not get boggled down with availability bias. What do we mean by availability bias? That because I have ABC resources, I can do only this. So for a moment, decouple your thought process from this availability bias. Third thing is anchoring, meaning I have certain thoughts or certain experiences and I know I can, or this is only feasible. So this actually limits the possibility. So avoid anchoring your thinking to certain past experience or certain references for the timing. Your references may be correct, but for the timing, when you are thinking to solve a problem, avoid anchoring and avoid group thinking. No, 5 people in the group think this way. How can I think different? No, doesn't matter. Doesn't matter that 5 people are thinking one way. Doesn't matter that you have to think the same way. So avoid these 4 pitfalls of using Scamper. You can really use it in a very effective way and design or maximize your offering to create new value for the customer. Let's move on to the next slide. Now, these are the 8 step-by-step approach of building value. And as we go along them, we will be sharing the value selling fundamentals. They are all ingrained in each of this. So the first step is identify an opportunity or a problem that you want to solve, whether it's your new prospects or it's your existing customer. How do you do this? Generally, market research. Number 2 is make sure you are selling your right offering to the right customer. Okay, so that's the point number 2. I will discuss each of these points a little more in detail in the subsequent slides. I'm just giving you a quick summary. Number 3 is market entry or market consolidation. Make sure that your market entry or market consolidation approach is correct. Otherwise, your value selling will not be effective. Next, point number 4, sharpen your offering through blue ocean ideation. We'll spend some time here and we will also do a quick exercise here, a 10-minute exercise. Next comes value pyramid fitment. How your offerings fit into the value pyramid and how it influences the value perception of the customer. Point number 6, value proposition canvas. What is value proposition canvas? How do we use it? We will do a quick exercise on that also, a 10-minute exercise. Next comes point number 7, customer value articulation. When you are going for customer value articulation, you must qualify and quantify the benefits. How do you do that? I'll show you how to do. And next, ensure continued protection of customers' interest. These are the primary step-by-step approach of building value. And when you are designing these elements, you can you can bounce it off with some stakeholders, like people who are your customers, who are your early adopters, or certain technical collaborators with whom you are building the service or solution, or certain channel partners or industry experts. You bounce it off with them when you are designing or putting all these things. It will do a quick validation of your thoughts and ideas. Otherwise, sometimes we are blindsided about certain flaws in our thinking. Now, step one. How do we make sure that we are doing this? Identifying the need or a problem to solve. This is, you have to do it through your research, whether it's a primary research or a secondary research. So what do we mean by this? Let's understand. What is it that you have to do the research? Generally, what is it that you have to do the research on? There are many things you can do research on. We call them macro environment and task environment factors. What are the macro environment factors? Like economic forces, okay? Technology change. What are the change? The latest change in technology. What is affecting? What is not affecting? Legal or regulatory factors in your customer's business, where you may find a problem to solve or a need to fulfill. Similarly, you should also consider the task environment factors, like competitive forces. What are they doing? What are they offering? The changing customer demand. What is it that is happening in today's world? Social factors. For example, today, because of the COVID situation, people are all working from home. So if you are designing an offering, okay, you have to be mindful of that also, right? So these are all important elements that should be researched upon continuously to ensure that you are bringing value increment in your offering. Now with that, we have to derive a value idea. How do we derive a value idea from this? Look at the green box on your left. So through your research, you need to understand what is the high impact problems or the need of the customer. Generally, when you interact with the customer, you will get to know the symptoms and sometimes the consequences of these problems. But until and unless you probe a little deeper, you will not be able to uncover the real causes of this problem. What is the cause which is actually impacting this problem, and who are the victims of these problems? Meaning, because of these problems, who are suffering? Is it the head of engineering who is suffering? Is it the project manager who is suffering? Of your customer's organization. So everything is about your customer's organization. So who is the victim? Is it the CEO suffering? Is it a CFO's problem? Is it the user who are suffering because of this problem? Who are the victims of this problem? It's very important for you to understand not only the problems, but the symptoms, the consequences. This more or less you anyway understand when you are interacting with the customers, and the customers will also share with you. But the causes, why it has happened or why it is happening, and the victims, this is something you need to uncover. Then only you will be able to design the value solution. And this is just on the right side, the yellow box is just a representation of how to kind of design your value solution. This is by no means an exhaustive representation. This is just a quick representation. So how can you increase their revenue, not your revenue? How can you increase their productivity, not your productivity? Your productivity improvement is your own agenda. But in value improvement for your customer, this is think how you can do this, how you can reduce their risk, how you can reduce their cost. So so through this kind of a metrics, you will generate certain value ideas, also use the Scamper technique, and you will be able to come with certain important value ideas that will generate incremental value or benefit for your customer. And with this, now you have to create a value capture model. What is value capture model? The revenue generation model, how you will engage creatively with the customer to communicate and deliver this value. And with this, you will go to the market with your value proposition. So this is a very important step of arriving at a value idea. And it's a continual process. From time to time, you have to re-examine your own offerings and come up with value ideas for your target market. The step 2 is come to the next thing is your target market. You have to be very clear to whom you want to bring this value for. It cannot be for everyone at every time. So the more you can pinpoint for whom you can deliver the value, meaning you can solve certain problems or fulfill their certain needs or aspirations, the better value connection or resonance will be with the customer, and the value selling will be more effective. So you be very clear about for whom you are building these offerings that you have today. So in terms of the revenue size, employee size, who should be your ideal customer? What type of company? Is it public company? Which industry? Which domain? Which geography should we target? Who are the main decision makers for evaluating my offering? Who are the main influencers? What is the complementary technology or environment that is required to make my offering effective at the customer's environment? So these are very important step for building value into your offering, and this will enable your value selling to be more effective. Next comes step 3. As we were saying, you cannot go everywhere to sell everything, right? Select the right approach based on the offering and the market segment you are in or you are targeting. There are 4 approaches we are mentioning it. There is nothing right or wrong here. Whatever you think after doing the research, which we discussed in step 1, whatever you think is relevant for you, you should adopt that approach. Approach A, solve a few problems or needs for a small segment. If you think your offering is suitable for this approach, go for this. Approach B can be solve a few problems or need for a large number and large variety of customers. If you think your offering is suitable there, do it. Third approach can be solve many problems, but for a very small number of customers. So our segment is very narrow, but for them we can solve many problems. This is again an approach C. An approach D can be solve many problems or needs for a large number of customers. Now this requires a lot of bandwidth, lot of resources. If you are ready for that, then you can adopt approach D, and it requires a lot of preparation and track record. Otherwise, you can choose A, B, C, and you may choose A for a particular offering for a particular segment, but you may choose approach B for a different offering for a different segment. It all depends on you. Again, there is nothing right or wrong. You need to choose the right market entry or market consolidation approach based on the nature of your offering and the nature of your target segment. So, but be mindful of it. Don't make a hodgepodge of everything and believing that you will be successful doing everything together. That doesn't happen. And your value proposition will be haywire and your value selling will fail. So be very clear about this approach of market entry or market consolidation, what you want to approach. Yes, you can derive some variants of this, but be clear what you are doing. Don't do a mess up. Don't do hodgepodge of everything. This is step 3. Next comes to step 4, the blue ocean ideation. I'm not sure if you are familiar with blue ocean ideation. A few years back, this strategy, Blue Ocean Strategy, there was a book which got published called Blue Ocean Strategy. This was written by 2 persons, Rennie Mauborgne and Chan Kim. And after that, it caught everyone's fancy. Actually, this book contained very powerful concepts which many thought leaders, many organizations today have adopted. And we strongly believe that blue ocean ideation is very important in your value selling. That is why this is one of the value selling fundamental. So this is value selling fundamental 5. So blue ocean ideation or blue ocean strategy is a very vast subject. We are not going to burden you saying that no, you have to implement the entire blue ocean strategy. What we are saying in value selling, just take an element of the whole strategy and apply it in your value selling, and it will give you a lot of mileage. Now, what is it that we are talking about here? Here, first of all, we take on the left, we are seeing the offering in its totality, right? The product, service, availability, delivery, support, engagement model, pricing, so many other things. This constitutes your offering. Now, one of the aspects of blue ocean ideation is periodically you must subject your offering, that means whether it's your service or delivery or whatever it is, through these 4 cycles: eliminate, raise, create, and reduce. What do we mean by this? What is it that we have to raise? Any factors, and you have to ask yourself, in my offering, which factors should be raised above industry standards? For example, for this kind of projects, it is, we know that the, say the productivity is this. Okay, or the benefits that we are giving to the customer, or the process, the performance of the application that we are giving to the customers, which is available in the industry, is this. Say it takes 2 milliseconds to process a transaction, or say say, I'm just giving you an example. So in 1 second it processes, say 10,000 transactions. These are some of the factors. These are all industry factors similar offerings are giving. Now question yourself, is it a factor with my offering? Can I raise above the industry standards? If the industry standards is say 10,000 transactions per second, with our performance, can we give it say 12,000 transactions per second to the customer? Now this will be fulfilling the criteria of blue ocean ideation, not just because it is the factors which you have raised above the industry standard. It also needs to be considered valuable by the customer. That means if the customer say, hey, I don't care whether you are giving me 10,000 transactions per second or 12,000 transactions per second, even if you increase to 12,000 transactions, I don't care. It is not adding any value to the business. Then that is not needed for you. Then don't do it. You will only raise those factors above industry standards only if they add value to your customer business and the customer is willing to acknowledge you for that, in the form of either maybe some incremental margin or some other considerations. So then only you will, because this requires investment, right? Similarly, reducing. Suppose you are saying, when I'm my delivery time is for this kind of project is more or less with industry standards. This kind of project, everyone delivers on 3 months. I'm also delivering it in 3 months. Now consider, is there a way we can deliver this kind of projects in 2.5 months? Can we reduce the delivery time? Can we reduce it below the industry standards? Think about that. Now, if you can, fine. Now you go back to the customer and bounce it off with the customer and understand whether if you do the delivery instead of 3 months to 2.5 months, it's really adding value to the customer's business and the customer is going to acknowledge. If you just ask, hey, I'm going to give it 2.5 months, so fine, well, you can give it. Or the customer may say, fine, if you can give it, or if you cannot give it, it's fine. If you can give it, fine. But it's not adding any additional value to the customer. He can still live with it even if you deliver it in 3 months. In that case, you don't do it. Only if it is valued by the customer, it will qualify as a blue ocean ideation. Similarly, things you can create. What is it that you can create which nobody else is offering? And that will be valued by the customer. Okay. And fourth thing is what is it that you can eliminate? For example, nobody is providing it. Customer is also not valuing it, but you are still doing it. For example, although nobody is doing it, but still, suppose you are delivering your software through shipment of CDs. Nobody does it. Customer doesn't even value it. Nobody does it. You are delivering your software through CD. Hey, just do it online. Give them a link, give them an access, it will work. Why you are doing a physical shipment of CD? I'm just giving you a crude example. So think about that. What are the factors in your offering that nobody is, or very few people are offering, and customers don't value, but you are still continuing to offer? You can eliminate those. If you can do this, then this will result in you arriving at a new offering or updated offering, which will be more valuable to the customer. So this cycle is a continual or periodic cycle, which you need to adopt from time to time. So with this, we'll do a quick 10-minute exercise. Please open a spreadsheet and copy this table. For any of your current offering, put the offering name and think of a target customer segment. On the left, put your offering element, product, service, and all. And think, what is it that you can raise above the industry standards? If you do that, the customer will value it. What is it that you can create? Again, the objective is not to fill out the entire box. Even if you can fill out 2 or 3 boxes, that's good enough. So you have 10 minutes. Can you please open a spreadsheet and get your hands wet? This is a workshop. This is not just sitting here and listening to Arijit. So there has to be some exercise for you. This will be a good, quick understanding of where you stand by yourself. Open the spreadsheet and build this table and see if you can fill out a couple of boxes. In terms of your service, what are the factors you may raise or you can raise which will be valuable to the customer? In terms of your delivery, what is it that you can create or reduce, which the customer will value it? In terms of support, the technical support or the after sales support that you provide, what is it that you can eliminate or what is it that you can create above industry standards which will be value from the customer? Please understand one thing, and please listen to me very, very carefully. This is not a template for your improvement suggestion. Blue ocean ideation is not just for your improvement suggestion. I repeat once again, and listen to it and note it down in your mind 1,000 times. This is not your improvement suggestion template. You hear what you have to do. You have to go out into the market, understand what is happening in the market, what options the customer has, what your competitors are offering. Then only you will come back here and do this exercise and see what are the factors you can raise above the industry standards, and it will be valued by the customer. For your improvement suggestion, that you can do in a separate forum. This is blue ocean ideation, which any element that you are considering here, whether it's to be eliminated, raised, created, or reduced, it needs to be with reference to the current industry standards, A, and B, it must be valued by the customer. Then only you will incorporate that point in one or two of these boxes. This is not for your improvement suggestion. Be very clear about it. So you have 10 minutes. So we have started at 11:23. We'll stop at 11:33. This will be a quick self-introspection for all of you. Again, this is not an improvement suggestion forum. You will only incorporate those factors which you can raise above industry standards or create beyond industry standards or reduce below industry standards and will be valuable for the customer. You can only put those factors if you really have the industry knowledge, if you really know what your competitors are offering. Again, don't try to fill out the entire table. You don't need to. Even if you at any point of time when you are sitting to doing this exercise, if you can fill out at least 3-4 boxes, it's fine. You should do it periodically in your organization, maybe once in a quarter. This will help you a lot. I think the time is up. It's 11:33. I hope you guys got it. So I believe you are getting a hang of things. It's not as easy as what you thought. It requires a lot of thinking. It requires a lot of introspection, lots of analysis, and overall it requires a lot of market inputs, without which, until and unless you are aware of those inputs, what's happening in the industry, what options the customer have in the market from your competitors or from other sources, until and unless you have knowledge of that, you will not be able to do a good exercise on this. So it's very important that you make a habit of understanding the market, the competitive offering on a regular basis, and periodically you do this exercise. Next, we move to the next step 5, fitting your offering into the value pyramid. So think up for a moment, where does your offering fit? Whether it's a product or a service or a solution, whatever you are selling today, what does it fit? Okay, there are 5 areas which I have outlined. Typically the value is on the y-axis and x-axis is generally the customer base. Now, with your offerings, typically what we do, we go to a customer and say, hey, I'm going to help you with efficiency. I'll improve your efficiency. I'll improve your savings. I'll give you a great quality. I'll improve your convenience or compliances. These are all important points for the customer, right? And the customer values these things. But how can we generate more value on top of this? If you say, hey, customer, not only this, I will also suggest or recommend the best technology or best architecture for you. So you're moving up the value chain. Or when you say, hey, customer, we are expert in this business process, not just the technology part. We know how the procurement process for the healthcare industry works. So the business process, procurement process for any enterprise business we can handle. So then the customer values that knowledge even more. And then you can have knowledge on the industry vertical, say healthcare or say manufacturing. Say you say, hey customer, you know what? I know the point of sale, the situations and application for this kind of fashion retail better than anyone else or as good as anyone else. So, this kind of industry vertical knowledge will also enable you to move up the value chain and capture the value. And finally, for specific customers, you may offer certain specific benefits, which are custom benefits that will enable the customer to get more benefits, because you have customized, you have tweaked your offering specially for them. Again, you will not do it for every customer, only those customers for whom you see a long-term sustainable business with proper margin. Now, remember one thing, look at the pyramid on the right side. When we sell to a customer, typically when we start the engagement, we are at the bottom. It's called opportunistic one-time seller. Then our effort is to move up the value chain. We become an approved repeated seller. Now, in value selling, we say you need to be at the top 3 levels. You need to be either a preferred seller, a key supplier, or a strategic partner. What do we mean by a preferred supplier? What is the difference between a key supplier and a preferred supplier? A preferred supplier is a supplier who is given the first right to refuse. There may be 10 approved suppliers. Out of them, if a customer has a requirement or a need, the customer will first turn to the 3 preferred supplier or 4 preferred supplier. So they have the first right of refusal. If they cannot do or they don't want to do, then only the customer will go to the other approved supplier. And a key supplier is a supplier which supplies certain product, service or solution which is not substitutable. The customer is not going to find this product or this service or this solution so easily or readily in the market. So you become the key supplier if you're selling or if you're supplying something which is not substitutable from the customer's perspective. And a strategic partner or a partner is when you are so much in the customer's business that the customer shares his strategic roadmap and direction, whatever is relevant for your business, and takes your inputs, and you are considered a strategic partner. So this is the journey of a value seller. You need to be at a preferred supplier, key supplier, and a partner level. This is very important for you to understand the value perception pyramid. Just to diffuse a misconception, there is no one-to-one mapping from the pyramid on the left to the pyramid on the right. There is no one-to-one mapping. This is just concepts and ideas which are getting shared, but generally if you are moving up the value chain, it's likely that you will be a preferred supplier or a key supplier. And if it at the highest level, if you're at the custom level or the industry vertical level, you are likely to be a key supplier or a partner. There is no straight away one-to-one mapping, but it's an indication. Next, we move to the step 6, value proposition canvas. What is this value proposition canvas? This is a very, very important concept you must understand. And you need to read the slide from right to left, not from left to right. Please read the slide from right to left. When you are doing value selling, you must chart out or understand what is the customer's needs. You must understand what is the customer's wants. Okay. And what are the customer's fears and what can substitute. What are the needs? What is the difference between need and want? Need is something fundamental, right? I need food, I need clothing. These are all fundamental. When need is objectionalized or when we express a specific desire for certain thing, it becomes a want. I need food, but I want dosa. Okay. So this is a specific want. Similarly, fears. What are the fears the customers have? What kind of risks? What kind of fears the customers have? So these things need to be understood because two customers may have the same need but may have different want. Okay. Even the customer may have different needs also. Okay. So and the customer. So it's very important for you to understand that. For example, person A and person B. Okay, both need clothing. Okay, and what is it that they need? They need clothing. What is it that they want? They both want jackets. Okay, and jackets means a blazer or a coat. They want jackets. So this is what you have uncovered through interaction. Now you being the jacket seller, you will go and say, hey, customer A or customer B, I have great jackets. This is the best quality jacket, but this is the best price I can give it to you at. The customer will say, fine, but it's still not signing up with you. You know where you are failing? What is it that, where is the gap? Because we have not uncovered the rational drivers behind these needs or want. If customer A is saying, yes, I want a jacket, why does he want a jacket? If customer B is saying, I want a jacket, why does he want a jacket? The need may be same, the want may also be the same, but the rational driver behind the want may be different. Customer A may actually, if you probe deeper, you will see customer A say, hey, I want a jacket now because I am feeling cold. This is pretty cold. I want a jacket to protect myself. Customer B say, no, my want is because I want a jacket with a more formal look. I have a presentation, customer meeting coming up tomorrow. I want a very formal blazer which will enhance my formal look. So the wants are same, but the rational drivers are different. Now, with the knowledge of these rational drivers, you will go to the customer and then you will say, hey, customer A, I have a great jacket which can keep you warm because this is the features, this is the benefits, and this is the price. You will go to customer B, say, hey, you have seen this. I have this coat which has a broad lapel with a perfect shoulder. This will enhance or accentuate your professional look. So now you are connecting with the customer in a more deeper way. This is what is value proposition canvas is all about. So for needs, wants, fears, and substitutes, you must understand what is the rational driver and what are the emotional driver. So, and again, you on the offering side, you must understand what the benefits you are giving based on the features, functionalities they are bringing in, and what is the customer's experience journey. You need to trace the experience journey and see what are the value incremental points that you have. That brings us to the next exercise. Look at this exercise. Again, open your spreadsheet. Okay. But let me walk you through this first. Here we are talking about the offering name and the customer segments. The inputs that you need to extract from them is what is the needs, what are the wants, what are the fears, and what are the rational drivers behind the fears. What is the rational driver? For a need, a rational driver is why do they need it or why do they want it? It must be driven by facts, figures, and reality. Okay. It's not depending on their emotion. For that, you have emotional driver. So a customer wants a particular product because his cousin said this is a great product. Okay. Or his colleague said this is a great product. That's an emotional driver. If you have to do value selling, you must understand what is the rational driver behind the need, what is the rational driver behind the want, what are the fears the customer had, and what are the rational drivers behind these fears, and what are the emotional drivers. Now, in B2C selling, when you are selling to a consumer, rational driver and emotional drivers are both there. But in B2B selling, emotional drivers may or may not be there in every situation, but rational drivers would be there in every situation. So always be clear about it. If you're talking to the CEO of the organization, or you're talking to the head of engineering, or you're talking to a user, if they are expressing certain needs and wants, don't just come back and say, oh, this is a customer needs, this is a customer want. Probe a little deeper. Understand what is the rational driver. Why do they need it? What they need? Why do they want it? What they want? What is their fear? What is driving this fear? Understand rationally, that is what is it driven by facts and figures. Also probe if there is an emotional angle. If there is an emotional angle, so that you can actually design your value positioning or pitch in the relevant way. So let's do a quick 10-minute exercise on this. It's now 11:44. You can create this, name the offering, name the target customer, and see what is the need that you have got from them. It can be stated need, implied needs. It can be stated wants or implied wants. Whatever it is, you just fill out the needs. I'm more interested in you doing the exercise to understand what is the rational driver behind the need. If the customer is saying, I need this, first of all, see what is the need and what is the want. When the customer said that I need this kind of an application, that's a fundamental need. When the customer say I want it to be done this way, that's a particular want or the desire. Okay, so try to differentiate between need and want. That's very important, and then see what is the rational driver for each of this. Take an offering name that you have. Think of any specific customer or prospects that you are talking to, and see how you can, fill out this rational driver. At least fill out the rational driver. Emotional driver, maybe you can check later also. So you have how many minutes left? You have 9 minutes left. Please do this exercise. It will give you a hang of the things. Copy this template. Someone has mentioned that need is something mandatory and want is specific about your need. Yes, you're right. I would rather put it this way: need is something not only mandatory, something fundamental, something core. Okay, and want is, you're right, what you desire or what is specific about your need. So objectification of your need is what is your want. Someone is asking, can we have the slide? It will be helpful. And Saurav is asking this. Unfortunately, we will be not in a position to share the slides, but you may get the recording of this session from NASSCOM, so you can refer to it, and I think that will be helpful. So someone is asking me to go back to slide number 18, Mrinal Sharma. So we'll just go back to the previous slide. Just 1 minute, please. This is the previous slide. Someone wanted to see this value proposition canvas. You should read this from right to left. You can use, once you have this, you can create a more comprehensive or exhaustive template. I have just given you the skeletal. I've just given you the thoughts and ideas. You can create a more detailed template to capture some of these elements. This is what we call the value proposition canvas. And this leads to your value proposition pitch, which we are going to discuss on next Friday. So someone wanted to see this. I think he's done. Wants, fears, needs. I'll keep it for 1 more minute and then I'll move to the next slide. Again, this takes practice. If you are not familiar with doing these things, first time there will be hiccups, second time also there will be hiccups, because these require specific techniques to uncover these points. This is where value selling actually meets, we call it rubber meets the road, right? There are certain other very important concepts which we are going to discuss over the next few minutes and on next Friday, and you will see a lot of things. So people are sharing some thoughts. Shiju has also shared some good thoughts. See, Shiju, thank you for sharing your thoughts. Guys, a few minutes to go. So I think we have 3.5 minutes to go. So whatever you are learning today, make sure to make it a practice in your regular job. Then only you will see the benefits. Again, these are not easy concepts. These are very, very strong and heavy concepts. The more you practice, the more you will be benefited, and you will master them gradually. But these are all proven practices and techniques across the world. These are all proven techniques, and this will help you to take to the next level. So Smriti Mishra is asking, sir, how do you uncover the implied needs or implied wants from the customer? This needs to be done through interaction only, which you have to sense, and by probing the right question. So how do we do it? Stated needs is what the customer would anyway disclose to you. Stated want is which the customer would anyway disclose to you, okay, as you are interacting. There are certain techniques for uncovering implied needs, and if some of you have attended my earlier sessions, I had covered this through a technique called spin technique, where you can uncover some of these implied needs also by probing the customer and getting the inputs. So Sarabjit Grewal has a question. He says that what would be the terms in emotional drivers if we consider needs and wants? See, I'm not sure I understood the question, Sarabjit. See, emotional drivers means if somebody is articulating a need or a want based on certain feelings, emotional bias or feelings or perception. For example, if I say, the same example, I say, okay, fine, I want the jacket. Okay, the same example. I want a jacket because my colleague told me, that jacket will make me look better. So it's an emotional driver. But if I say no, I want the jacket because I know with this kind of jacket, with this fitment, I can get some more. It will accentuate my professional look, and I will be more effective in my business meetings based on my previous experience. I have facts and figures to support that. Then it's more of a rational driver. So emotional driver is based more on your feeling, bias. You really don't have any specific facts or figures to substantiate the needs or wants or fears. Then it's an emotional driver. But rational drivers is when you are say somebody said, I need this application because it will improve my productivity by 5%, or it will improve my productivity, or it will save my cost. So these are all rational drivers. when someone buys from you, if they said, okay, fine, I need this kind of an application because it will save cost or it will improve my productivity. So these are all rational drivers. If someone say, okay, I need this product or I want this type of specific application because my colleague told me that this can go well, or because I have somehow a hunch that this can do well, then it's an emotional driver. So Tulsi is saying this is a wonderful session. It's nice to connect with you. Tulsi and I walked, I go back a long, way. How many years? Maybe 20 years. We walked together. Thank you, Tulsi. Good to see. Good to see you here. So Smita has a good question. Often most customers are not able to differentiate between need and want. Customer may not be, you have to do it. And so you need to kind of understand what is core and what is fundamental requirement, and then what is the desired thing, or what is the objectification of that. So that you have to understand by questioning. And see, please understand one thing. Again, the customer will tell you, this is what is it, this is my problem, this is my aspiration, these are the issues I am facing. Now you have to dissect them. Again, spin technique helps a lot, Smita. You have to dissect them through a question answer mechanism. There is a certain mechanism and technique for that, by which you need to understand what is the core and the fundamental issue. What is the core and the fundamental issue? That is the need. Okay. And then if they are saying, okay, fine, I want this to fulfill this need, that becomes the desire, the objectification of the needs is the want. So it can only be done through a Q&A. And again, the way you will do it for one customer may not be the same for the next customer. So but there are certain fundamental Q&A techniques. You can use the spin technique. There are certain other techniques which will enable you to get that insight. I hope, Smita, I answered your question. There is no standard, ready-made, all fitting size or all fitting technique for everyone. I hope we are, we have passed the time. Good that we had certain Q&A session also here. Anyway, we'll move on. So next we come to the next steps, step 7, and value selling fundamentals. Here we are talking about quantifying the benefits. Value selling fundamental, quantifying the benefits. What are the benefits we generally bring to the customer? Now, benefits are typically, when we talk about benefits, we have categorized it into two ways. One is with your offering, what kind of gain you are creating for the customer, and what kind of pain you are relieving the customer from. So we have, based on our experience, we have mentioned 7 gain areas and 7 pain areas, which generally come into a customer's decision consideration. Again, by no means this is an exhaustive list. This is by no means an exhaustive list. This is just a representative list to set you thinking. It's very important not only to articulate your benefits, but also quantify wherever it's possible. You cannot quantify every benefit. Okay. Wherever it's possible, try to quantify so that the customer get a better feel about the benefit. So the most popular gain benefits which the customer thinks when he is considering buying a offering is generally, hey, is it going to help increase my top line? Hey, I will buy from you if it helps me reduce my cost or improve my savings. Or, Smita, or, Ravi, I'll buy it from you if you are helping me improving the quality of my offerings. If your product or service enhance the quality of my offerings, I can give it a consideration. Or if someone says, hey, you know what, I can consider your service if it helps me improving the cycle time of productivity of my team or my offering. Or if it is helping me improving my competitiveness. If your offering enables me to become more competitive, I can consider your product, okay, or service. If it is, point number 6, if it is helping me to comply with certain statutory or regulatory requirements, then definitely I will, consider. Whether I will buy, that comes later, but at least I will consider. And if you as a thought leader or as a value seller have covered certain needs and wants through your questioning techniques, which the customer himself was not aware of. This is something we discussed 2 minutes back. The customer sometimes may not be aware of his needs and wants. You being the thought leader in your space, you being the expert, you have uncovered certain unconsidered needs. The customer feels emotionally connected. That resonance is much deeper. Okay, the customer says, oh, okay, I will consider you. Similarly, there are certain pain relievers we have mentioned here. There can be so many else. We have just mentioned a few of them. Now, is your product or service, anytime, anywhere access? Then I can consider it because that's useful for me. Do you provide 24/7 support? Especially when you are selling to US or Europe, they need a neck to catch. If something goes wrong, they need a neck to catch. So if I am the American buyer, you are selling to me, it's important for me to know whether you have that kind of a 24/7 support. You may be selling from India. I know I'll get cost savings, but if something goes wrong, you can't tell me, oh, I was sleeping that time. I need some neck to catch. So 24/7 support is kind of a pain reliever for the customer. Is it improving my physical or digital safety? If you say yes, by this offering, you are enabling me and my organization to improve my safety security, I may think of considering your offering. I am the CEO or I'm the CEO or I'm the CFO. I go to bed with a lot of concerns and worries. Is your offering helping me diminish my concerns and worries? Okay. You know what, Mr. Vendor, my team makes a lot of mistakes doing the same exercise again and again. Do you have any offering, or is your offering helping me to eradicate some of the common mistakes which my team does? Okay, then it's a pain reliever for me. Similarly, you are all techie guys. You don't come me and tell me, this is a hi-fi technology. This is the latest. I am using blockchain. I am doing this kind of analytics. All those things are fine. But I am a manufacturing company, or I'm a healthcare company. I'm a retail company. I don't understand those technology. You first tell me that whatever hi-fi you are talking, this is easy for me to adopt. No, you may be talking hi-fi. I'm not interested. But is it easy for me and my team to adopt and see the business benefits which I'm looking for? Lower barrier for technology adoption. That is my pain relieving. Because I have talked to many of your competitors. They all come and give me a lot of hi-fi GAN. I don't understand. Okay. Next, point number 7 is mitigating the risks. With your offering, if you tell me, or if you can show me that you are able to mitigate certain risks for me. It can be business risks, technology risks, process risks, resource risks. If you are able to mitigate, or you are able to mitigate, or you are able to work around through some constraints, yes, I can definitely consider this. But for value selling, fundamental 6 is quantification of some of these benefits. This will enable you to resonate or connect with the customer in a much deeper way. So maybe I'll do one thing. I will show you how this is done. Let me stop sharing for a moment. I'll just, so that you guys get an understanding of typically how this is done, because this is very, very fundamental, very important point. I'm going to share a template on my screen. After that, I'll again go back to the presentation. Unfortunately, I will not be in a position to share this template with you, but you will get some idea from here how this quantification of benefits is done. Okay, I hope you can see the screen which says customer value articulation template. Now, typically what happens is that the same gain creators and pain relievers you can see on the screen in blue and gray, row number 13. See, typically this is a template or tool which Bizwin has developed and which we share with our customers. What it does is it enables the customer to articulate what benefits in form of gain creators or pain relievers they can generate. That's number 1. What benefits? Number 2, how they can do it, which is captured through your column A, and how much they can do it. So what benefits, how they are going to deliver the benefits, and how much benefits they can deliver. This is a template or tool to capture that. For example, we may say for this particular offering ABC for these target segments, through our features and functionality, I can reduce the cost by 5%. Now, sometimes you may or may not have the direct number. So when you do this exercise, you can just write Y and N, yes and no, because you don't have the quantification. So, and there are so many boxes here. Even if you can fill out 5% of them for any offering, that's good enough. You are not expected to fill out all the boxes. Even if you can fill out 5% or 3%, that is 5 or 6 of the boxes, that's good enough. But for that, you must understand your customer, you must understand your offering, and you need to ask your customer about the feedback. So yeah, reducing saving and cost, yes, with my features and functionality. By customization, I'm improving their productivity. I'll put Y. Okay. So yes, now the question is, can I quantify some of these things? If I say I'm also through my knowledge and performance, I'm enhancing their quality. I'm putting Y there. Okay. So now, do I know how much cost I can reduce them? If I know them, I'll put that number on an average. If I don't know an answer, I will just keep Y and Y. So when this is ready, you keep it as a master document. And when you are attacking or approaching a customer in that particular segment, this is done for a customer segment, you can refer to this as the master sheet, and then you can actually formulate your value positioning based on this sheet and go to the customer with a very pinpointed value statement. We will do that exercise on next Friday. You will see that. So just wanted to share that to give you a kind of an understanding how it is done. So let me stop sharing and go back to the screen once again, the presentation. So I'll just share this. So this is where we are. This is the slide. Let me put it back on the slideshow mode. So this is value selling fundamental number 6. I promise that we will discuss 7 of them. So we are coming to the fag end of this session. So let's go to the last slide, which is value selling fundamental number 7. And this is a step 8 of building value into your offering. Ensure protection of customer interest. Please understand, when you are selling to the customer, it should not be a one-time opportunistic sell only. It can be so based on your offering. But in general, if you think you can add value to the customer through a longer relationship, if your offering is like that, then also design how you can ensure the protection of customers' investment with you. If the customer is investing with you, okay, he's buying from you for the first time, and your offering nature is such that you can engage with him for a long term and you can deliver more value. You have to ensure a design by which you can communicate how you are going to protect the customer's investment with you. Now this is a very important value selling fundamental. I'll give you an example from my personal life. See, I am from Oracle, right? I used to work for Oracle. So when we were selling 11G, the database, we were talking also about 12C. 12C was not even in the horizon. But the customer saw, hey guys, here is someone, here is a company who is coming and telling me how things will pan out for the next 2 years or 3 years. That means this vendor is already invested millions of dollars to protect me from my technology obsolescence risk. So this is a great relief for the customer. So the customer thinks, hey, these guys these are leaders, these are thought leaders, they know, these are experts, they know where the industry is going. If I stay invested with them, my technology obsolescence risk, my investment is insulated or insured. This is how thought leaders sell. They sell not only in current competence, they sell on current competence plus future roadmap or future competence. This gives a lot of assurance, a lot of confidence to the customer that yes, I am dealing with an expert. To do this, you must know the roadmap of your own offering. That's very important. So you must know the industry, you must know the shifting customer demand, you must know the other macro and task environment factors which we discussed in step 1, and then you must come with a 1 year or 2 year roadmap of your offering which you can share with your customer when you are selling your current competence. That, hey customer, this is what we have today. But this is because we are a thought leader, because we are cognizant of what is going to come for the next 1 year or 2 years. We have also thought through it. This is what we are going to bring in the next 3 months, 6 months, 9 months, 12 months. So this creates a lot of interest and confidence with the customer. This is what we call step 8 for building value into your offering, and this is also the value selling fundamental number 7. So with this, we come to the end of today's session. What I'll do is I will run a quick quiz just to check how many of you have really listened to this. Answer it in your own pen, with your own pen and paper, and see how much you have written. Number 1 question: what do you understand by value of an offering? We talked about the ratio. See if you can write the ratio on your paper. You have 1 minute. What do you understand by value of an offering? I will give you the answer anyway, but try it yourself so that you get there. Okay, here is the answer. You guys must have got it. It's the ratio of overall benefits to cost and adverse effect. So this is the first question. There are 3 questions. Second question: in the current context, what does scamper denote? I don't know whether you guys have noted it down. Let's see if someone has noted down. Scamper denote. This was value selling fundamental 3. This is a technique of thinking about new or different way. Thinking new or different way. It's a technique we discussed. Scamper technique. What does scamper stand for? You have 1 minute. What does scamper stand for? Some of you are sending the answers on the chat. Thank you for your answers, but anyway, I'm going to announce the answer here. If you're getting it right, good. What does scamper stand for? S is for what? Substitute, if you remember. C is for what? Combine. I'm not going to give you the rest of the things. Let me see if you can remember. This is a very important, popular technique, and it's you can check this later also. Okay, this is what it is. Substitute, combine, adapt, modified, put to another use, eliminate and reverse. Where we are going to use this? When we are trying to build an offering, trying to redesign an offering, try to maximize certain offering elements, we can use this technique to think differently, think newly, do a better brainstorming. Okay, these are some of the thinking techniques, and this is very important for your value selling. And finally, the last questions, we discussed about gain creators and pain relievers. And I also mentioned you need to quantify the gain creators, but I also discussed all gain creators or all pain relievers cannot be quantified. Some of them can be quantified. I gave you some examples, 7 examples of gain creators, 7 examples of pain relievers. Okay, can you name 2 gain creators that you can quantify? Again, all gain creators, all pain relievers may not be quantifiable, but you may be able to quantify some of them, right? Can you name 2 of them? Any 2 of them? Again, I'll give you 1 minute. Cynthia is asking, can we get this PPT in an email or registered participant? This is an awesome session. And Cynthia, thank you for your comment, but unfortunately we are not in a position to share the PPT, but you will get a recording of this session. So you may please refer to it. I think that will also be very useful. Karthik has answered it correctly. So let everyone answer. Karthik, your answer is correct for the third question. Let's wait for a few more seconds and let's see if someone else can answer this as well. So yes, the answer, maybe most of you have already got it. I see Karthik has put it on chat. Yes, reducing cost, savings, improving cycle time, productivity. These are all, can be quantifiable. So here is the answer. It can be top line growth. It can be cost savings. It can be productivity improvement. It can be the cycle. It can be time to market. There are so many things can be quantified. Okay, so some of you got it right. I can see. Enhance quality of customers offering. Bhavna, can you quantify it? Think again. So you may or may not be able to quantify it. If you have certain parameters as quality, then you may be able to quantify it. Else, you may not be able to quantify if you just say, I will enhance the quality of customers offering. It's a good point. It's a gain creator. But think again whether you will be able to quantify. Cost reduction, yes, definitely. You can quantify. Fine. I think that brings to the end of the session. And I really appreciate each one of you for patiently being here. And this session has been also kind of, I wouldn't say interactive that way, but yes, there were certain question answers which were thrown through your chats, and I'm happy to kind of get those questions. If you have some more questions, I think we can open it up.
Yes, Arijit. We can take questions for another 10 minutes.
Yeah.
Then we can wrap the webinar.
Yes. So I think we are getting some question.
Yeah.
So, Kumar, Karthik, thank you so much. All of you have shared very good thoughts about this session. I can see a lot of you have appreciated this session. Thank you all. Thank you very much. If you really find it useful, then, but the proof of the pudding is in eating. So I'm happy that all of you have found this useful. Now the question is how you are going to apply this. Please make sure you are applying the learnings from this session. Then only it will be useful. Vivek says, thanks Arijit, fantastic session. Manisha says, thank you for the sessions. Once again, thank you all. But again, whatever you have learned, you are going to get this as a reference, right? You will get the recording, go through it and see what are the elements you can apply in your day-to-day working. That's most important. So it's not just for academic exercise. Please remember one thing, when I present or someone from BizWin present, these are all practical proven techniques. Yes, there are certain academic elements in it, but they're all practical proven techniques. If you apply them in your real life, you will see tangible benefits, but you have to apply it in the right way. So I see a lot of inputs coming on chat. Israel, Shrikant, Sharabjit, Shrikant, I may not be able to name all of you, but I really, Rajesh, Mahesh, all of you, thank you very much. And Ram is saying, I'm from Maruti from Inform America and volunteer for Lead India. I know this need to be applied and no shortcut. Yes, absolutely, there is no shortcut. Rakesh, thank you for your comment. Ram, thanks again. Again, there is no shortcut. And these are some of the concepts you may be familiar with. Some concepts you may not be familiar with. So kindly go through them time and again so that you internalize them. These are not easy concepts. Again, let me be upfront with you. And these are not easy concepts. So it takes time to internalize, assimilate, and then only you will be able to apply them. Okay, so make sure you internalize them and make sure not to miss the next Friday's session, because you have been exposed to 7 out of the 12 value selling fundamentals. We are going to discuss the remaining 5 on next Friday, and more importantly, the last value selling fundamental which we are going to discuss, value conversation framework. That is the crux of everything. That is the epitome of value selling. So if you can master that, you will never look back. But these concepts are a little heavy concepts. You need to be patient. You need to, I'm trying to repeat myself time and again so that you get to understand some of these concepts. Again, some of the concepts are common and you are familiar with them. Some of them are unfamiliar and little deeper concepts, especially what we discussed today and some of the things we are going to discuss tomorrow. I'm going to repeat time and again to make you understand. But you really need to spend time thinking about them, understanding, internalizing, and assimilating it. And then
Sorry to interrupt, but we have a question. So this question is from Mr. Mahesh. He says, how to identify the correct offering before value selling the same?
See can you repeat? Where is the question? I didn't get it.
Just give me a minute.
What is the question? Can you just repeat it?
Yeah, the question is how to identify the correct offering before value selling the same.
Mahesh, think how you can do it. I'm going to give the answer to you. We covered this 15 minutes back, and I'm going to repeat it once again. This is a good question. And this is how we are going to do it. Let me, actually my screen has got frozen. Just give me a moment. Let me just come back and share the screen with you again, with all of you. This is how you are going to do it, Mahesh. Value conversation framework. You need to be understanding the needs, wants, and fear of the customer. Then only you will be able to understand, how you can tweak the offering for that customer. Okay. So it's very important for you to understand the rational drivers behind the needs and also need to uncover the stated and implied needs. Mahesh, you need to understand what are the wants, what can be the wants and implied wants, what can be the fear. Then you can see what offering or what tweaking or variant of the offering can fit into the customer. You can go to the customer with a basic offering, but you can always say, hey customer, this is not the whole thing. I have a few questions. I have done this kind of benefits for customer ABC. Now listen to this, everyone. I have delivered these benefits to customer ABC with offering 1, 2, 3. And I believe I can do it for you also. But I have a few questions to be sure. That means I am not promising you that I'll be able to do the similar benefits to you. I have a few questions to ask. Then only I will be able to tell you whether I'll be able to deliver benefits 1, 2, 3, which I have done for some other customers. So that actually is a very professional way of seeking a proper dialogue with the customer. Hey customer, I've given benefits 1, 2, 3 for ABC customer. I think I can do it for you because you are also in the same line, but I'm not sure. I want to ask you a few questions, and then you get into those questions, uncover the needs, wants, and see which offering or offering variant will be more relevant to his context. I hope Mahesh, you got the answer. Yeah, any question? Anybody else? So Mahesh says, yes, thanks a lot. Okay. Any other question, Jagriti, you see?
No, Arijit.
I think we have answered the questions during the session itself.
Right, agreed. So for all the participants, if you have any more questions, I'm writing a mail ID. You can share your questions there and we can, consolidate and give it to Arijit and that can be answered and shared back to everybody.
I think Sunil has a question. Do you agree that rational drivers are much better to have than emotional drivers and it is easy to handle? Absolutely, Sunil. You got it right. Rational drivers are better to have than emotional drivers because rational drivers, you can address them. Emotional drivers also you may be able to address them, but not fully. So, but it's better to understand and uncover the emotional drivers so you are ready. So it's important for you to understand and get a hang of both the rational drivers and emotional drivers both. But yes, rational drivers are relatively easier to handle than emotional drivers. You are right. And remember one thing, in B2B selling situation, rational drivers will be there. Emotional drivers may or may not be there. So if it is not there, don't waste too much of time in trying to uncover something which is not there. But in B2C selling, yes, generally both rational drivers and emotional drivers both come into the play. Generally, again, there is no hard and fast rule. Yes. Sunil, I hope I answered your question.
So there's not a question but a request from Mr. Sarabjit to you, Arijit, that if you could share some templates or questions that you know they can discuss with the clients or the prospect
There
clients.
is there is no such thing. It varies from company to company. It varies from
Correct.
offering to offering. There is no such list of questions. So unfortunately, Sharabji, there is no such list of questions. It all depends on your company's offerings and the target segment. It will vary from company to company, from segment to segment. So there is no list of questions. The only thing I can tell you, Sarabjit, is that try to connect with the customer at the point of their aspiration or point of affliction. Means what the customer is looking for to grow their business, improve their productivity, all those things. Those are the other aspirational aspects. So you have to uncover those things. You have to do the research about the company whom you are targeting. That's the aspirational point. Affliction point is, missing deadline by the customer. Cost reduction, cost escalation for them is an affliction, or low productivity can be a point of challenge. So these are all point of affliction. So you need to think, okay, what is through interaction, through your research, you have to understand what can be their point of aspiration and point of affliction, where you can connect with the customer and create a resonance. If some of you have attended my earlier session, we talked about an RDS approach, and that's very important in value selling. Resonance, differentiation, and substantiation. You need to resonate with your customer. You need to differentiate your offerings vis-a-vis available options, and then you have to substantiate it with facts and figures through case studies, testimonials, so on and so forth. Yeah. Any other question or any other observation?
So we'll take another 1 minute or 2 minutes for the questions,
Yeah,
participants.
and then we can wrap up. I think we are
Wrap up.
also arriving at the end of the call. Yeah.
Yeah.
Jagriti, I saw some questions regarding the link for the next Friday's call. Maybe I guess you need to
Yeah,
send
so
it to
basically
everyone.
we'll share the invite and the mailer in the coming week by maximum
Okay.
Tuesday with all the participants as well. So they can register it again and then can join on the Friday call.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah. I think we don't have any more questions. So thank you so much, Arijit, for such an explanatory, I would say, workshop and very insightful for the participants as well. We always have like a great time having you over, and we'll be like the participants would be waiting for the next workshop. To all the participants, a workshop link, the next invite would be shared to everybody, and the recording link will also be available in some time and will also be shared over mail to everybody. So hope to see you on the next Friday call and hope you had a great time and a good insightful session with Arijit.
Yeah, thank you, Jagriti, and thank you all of you who have sat through this presentation for the last couple of hours. Thank you all. I just wanted to tell everyone that, see, value selling is a deep concept. So if you have found these sessions to be useful, next session, bring some of your senior business leaders in your organizations to the session, and that way they will also get to get insight. And I will do a quick recap of value selling part 1 at the front end of the call next Friday. So they will also get to see some of the things. So bring some of your senior business leaders. Again, this may not be relevant for very junior people, mid-level or very senior people. This is more relevant. You can invite them. You can bring them along with you on this session next Friday. This will be very useful for them. Thank you all. Thanks a lot. And, you have a great day ahead. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Arijit. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Bye-bye.